catching a feeling.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feels Out Loud, brought to you by Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. This is your host, Martini, along with host Becky McNattin. We're glad to have you listening as we live and share stories of mental health.
And we have a very meaningful show to do today. It's been a topic in the mental health space intensely for many, many months, probably forever. But we're going to be processing through the relationship fractures happening from political divisiveness. And this is occurring everywhere, Tara.
It is.
Everywhere. And I can say truly that this is a part of my discussions frequently with clients, maybe almost every single day. The mental health impact is enormous from the loss of relationship, as well as this realization of deep difference in perspectives and views. And here to talk through it with us today is our special guest, Stefanie Mach.
Hello.
Thank you, Stefanie, for being here on the show. And I want to get into why we asked you specifically to be on the show. But as we get started, tell us about you.
Yeah, so I recently became a therapist. This is my third career. Third
career.
Yeah.
But we love
The
that
final
you
one.
decided to switch over.
Yes, hopefully. And I really do consider it an extension of what I've done before. I used to work in nonprofit world, and then I got into politics. I ended up serving in the Arizona State House of Representatives for a couple terms. And that's where I learned how to have some of these discussions, the ones that are really difficult with people who you disagree with. And you really have to find those connecting bridges that you can get over to make sure that you can work together on at least some topics. And so, I've really used that a lot in my therapy. Conflict resolution, being able to understand the difference between healthy conflict and unhealthy peace is, I think, really important.
Interesting.
Wow. Well, it's such a universal concept, right? Whether we're talking politics or any other topic, conflict resolution is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we wanted you to be on the show today because you have this whole political background of being a representative. And for lots of us, we don't have that experience, especially those of us who are therapists. So in your third career, you're political advocate and legislator gone therapist. And so my guess is you watched political issues play out as a politician, and then now you see it from the therapeutic side. How are you seeing these relational impacts occur from differing political views?
Well, I would say that I've always kind of known, no matter what position you're in, what kind of impact is happening to different people at different levels. There's a sense of helplessness, a sense of fear that's happening for people all the way from being in positions that do not have effect over some of the things that we're talking about. Because even city councilmen and people who sit on school boards do not have an effect on the federal government's budget. And so they do feel restrained to some level and feel limited in some way. But I think that ultimately what we're really talking about when in a therapeutic space is with individuals, and they come to the office and they're wondering whether they're going to lose their job or whether their family members feel safe, whether they feel like they can continue a relationship with somebody who's in their family and they've known for years, or friendships that they thought were a thing that are no longer that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and you bring up such a good point about that safety piece, or, safe in that it makes you question something that you felt was safe for so long, or something that you maybe for so long felt you never had to question. And then this
That's a really good point.
Of politics
a really good point.
Makes you question something that you felt for so long maybe was your one thing that grounded you. And now all of a sudden it's like, but wait.
Mm-hmm. And as you're pointing out, relationships that we hear about in the therapeutic realm, relationships where people felt safe with a person or in a connection with another person, and they're saying, oh my gosh, I don't anymore.
Right.
An interesting topic to explore.
So interesting.
So many questions for Stefanie. We're going to take a short commercial break, but stay tuned as we further explore the impact of political differences on relationships. We're going to be talking about it all, everybody. Thank you for listening to Feels Out Loud. We will be back in just a moment.
All you got to do now. Nothing to lose. In a world full of strangers, you don't know who to trust. All you see is danger, trying to find what you lost.
Welcome back to Feels Out Loud, brought to you by Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. I'm Tara Martini, along with the fabulous Becky McNattin. Let's dive right back into our discussion on politics and relationship fractures.
Yeah, the political divide goes deep. And across the country, relationships everywhere are feeling this. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to get into politics and the kind of who believes what. What we really are focusing on the show today is the impact of thinking and believing differently and the relational influence on our mental health.
Well, because that's the most important part, right?
It certainly is something.
It's the core of it.
Yes. And so, Stefanie, you kind of talked about this in the last segment, this experience of being a former politician. And can you say a little bit more about how that influences the way you practice in your current mental health career?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the biggest things that served me along the way was having a genuine sense of non-judgmental curiosity. If you could understand...
Oh, we talk about that on the show.
I was just going to say, it's lead, yes, with compassionate curiosity rather than judgment.
Yeah.
Right. And I think so often there's a sense of, I feel affronted by just the thing that you said to me. How dare you? There's an anger, there's a defense, there's that kind of feeling that kind of gets... It eclipses any other kind of sense of judgment. Mm-hmm. And if you can calm that sense down and say, wait a minute, they feel this way very distinctly and deeply themselves. How? Why? Mm-hmm. What in their lives has led them to this point that they feel so deeply in such an opposition to me? Mm-hmm. And if I can start to have those conversations, even in marriages that are devolving or in family ties that have nothing to do with politics that are disintegrating, or there's just conflict in other areas. If we can encourage that kind of conversation, that I think has helped in all kind of discussions.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have so many examples of when you would go door knocking as a politician. You've told me many times about these experiences where people would loathe you before they even open the door.
Absolutely.
Or as soon as they would open the door, they would say something to you because of something you symbolized or a thought they had about you without even knowing who you are. Absolutely. And that practice of you responding with curiosity, how much that would change your dialogue with people.
Mm-hmm. I think just having the assumption that someone's coming from a place that you might not understand, or that even if you could just think for a second, you could understand, but isn't your perspective, is I think really crucial to have those discussions with people. And you could say, if you're angry from the moment we've talked, I don't actually think this is about me, especially if we've never met, especially if it has been a while and our last parting was fine. Mm-hmm. I have to assume that something else has happened to lead you to this moment.
Right.
Or, I guess, piecing together what happened in the kitchen today and it's full of chaos, or the kids are screaming, or something else is happening, that there is a reason, and it still might not have anything to do with me, or only partially to do with me, and we can talk about that. Mm-hmm. Instead of assuming, wow, this is all you,
right,
or this is all me, and we can't get beyond it.
Yeah. So, in that, you too, Tara, start. You start. How do you see politics affecting relationships?
Wow.
And have you noticed?
I feel like
I'm a little setting you up, sweetie.
Yes, girl.
Have you noticed strain in relationships due to politics?
Absolutely. But I also think, to Stefanie's point, it is how it is handled. In that, if it is viewed as we think differently, therefore we will never see eye to eye and we can't get along because of that, that's very different than we have different views, but we can still respect one another.
Good point.
Right? That's very different. And when I say relationships, they can be platonic relationships that, it's all sorts of definitions, in that, yes, I've had dynamics where it is all of a sudden just that label, whatever it is that you have, all of a sudden it is a matter of, I do not like you. I do not like the person you are because of that, and then there's a wall.
Yeah.
All the way to, that is the label you have. Tell me more. Mm-hmm. That curiosity. Mm-hmm. Where, wow, we don't see eye to eye, but I would love to understand, like Stefanie, you had said earlier, the why behind it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And that, to me, is so cool. If we thought exactly the same about everything, what a boring world we'd live in. Mm-hmm. But if you're willing to, like, be vulnerable and share a bit of yourself and the why behind your belief system and things like that, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. But can politics tear a relationship apart? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before it even begins, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's that fracture that can happen if the relationship is already formed, but there can also be a stopping point before the relationship even starts, an unwillingness to begin a relationship before it starts.
Dating sites, a lot more people are listing their political affiliations because they don't want to even have a conversation with somebody who is from another political party. Mm-hmm. About a third of people, roughly, in this country are stating that they have at least wanted to sever relationships with their family members, their friends, and at the very least have retreated from having more conversations with them. Mm-hmm. They're starting to think about not having Thanksgiving dinner together and not participating in Christmas celebrations that they normally might. People are not taking jobs in certain locations. They're not talking to their coworkers like they might have.
Yeah.
It has been across the board. I mean, and meta studies have said even 50% of people responding to different polls have said it has affected their relationships. Political discussions have affected their relationships in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So,
and in the therapeutic realm, we see all the time the grief that comes from you aren't who I thought you were, friend or family member, or I thought we aligned, or the impact of relationships ending. You were a huge space of support for me, and you're not anymore, or I don't see it that way, or I don't feel safe with you anymore. All sorts of things, or as you mentioned, Tara, this idea of respect, that when it's navigated without respect, that what I believe or think or align with is disrespected, and that there are relational wounds that come from that. I mean, we see it, and I love what you're bringing up, Stefanie. This is how it influences how we engage and connect or don't connect with others.
But it does. And I remember right after the election, in that I have worked with clients with grief, the loss of a human being. After the election, I dealt with clients dealing with grief of loss of a friendship due to, I thought I knew this person, and the things that came out of their mouths and their character that was the same emotions and experience
as death.
Yeah. And it was such a profound loss. And I had never experienced that before, since I'm fairly new to the therapist realm. It was so profound for me as a therapist to experience it alongside my client. And it wasn't, like you said, it's just experiencing that with our clients. It's such a unique thing when it has the politics involved, right? Because I don't think people listening realize that grief is the same, right? That loss of, that was my safe person, and now it is not.
Yes. And certainly we aren't robots, so we're navigating this in our own relationships
exactly.
as well. So listeners, hey, we sit there too, and I know something different about this relationship than I did before, or I see this differently now, or I don't feel like how I view this issue or circumstance is respected by you. Or I don't know if I can stay friends with you.
Right.
I'm sitting in that same bucket myself. I wanted to toss some statistics at you too.
All right, let's hear it.
So in a Newsweek article in 2024, it was reported that 1 in 6 Americans has ended or considered ending a relationship due to political differences. And then this moved to 1 in 5 saying they would end a relationship with a family member or friend in 2025. So in 1 year, Newsweek did this kind of an article 1 year. In the next year, it went from 1 in 6 to 1 in 5.
Wow.
A 2024 American Psychiatric Association survey found that 1 in 5 adults have become estranged from a family member due to disagreements over controversial political topics. So this was the APA, a association that in the therapeutic world we revere highly. So 1 in 5 have become estranged from a family member. A study cited by the New York Post in August of 2025 indicated that less than 10% of friendships in America cross political lines. In 2025, this was just this last August, indicated that less than 10% of friendships in America cross political lines. Surveys in 2024 and 2025 highlight that political differences are a growing deal breaker for singles even entering a relationship. You talked about this kind of dating sites, and 46% of people said they would avoid dating someone with opposing political views. And another survey in 2024 found that 75% of couples had fought with their partners over politics.
Wow.
And I don't believe the other 25% people. So
I love it.
Say that you only 75% from being a person in relationship myself. I don't believe you.
Well, maybe the 25% are the smart ones who married someone with the same political beliefs.
Well, but even you think about, even if you have the same political beliefs,
I know.
the way that feels show up in conflict, even if we do align. Big feels can show up as conflictual, even if we're in alignment. So I don't know that I totally buy 75%. but all of that saying, oh my goodness, this information shows examples of how widespread fractures are.
Right.
When I saw these statistics, I wasn't surprised, but I was also shocked at how rampant the impact relationally is. And of course, as a therapist, I sit in that space all the time. We are human beings wired for connection with other human beings. And so this is a absolutely critical component to how we connect with other human beings and whether or not we even do. If those end. I just wondered, what do you two think about the stats?
I find them absolutely believable, other than the fact that, well, here's the thing. A lot of people don't believe that things that are political, and truly everything can be.
Good point. You have said that to me so many times that all things are political.
All things are political.
Politics is everything.
Politics is everything because we don't realize how our society has been created based on either informal or formal norms and rules, policies that touch everything. I used to, when I got better at going door to door, one of the things I would do instead of telling them what I believed is to ask them what has been going on in their lives that has been bothering them. And
you're a good girl.
And I could say that people would say, they would try to challenge me because I said, I'll connect it to any policy you want. Anything you want to talk about at all, I will talk to you about how the government touches it or doesn't touch it, or maybe should touch it. And it's not just the government. I think that sometimes you think about just societal norms, cultural norms. They're either created by or reflected by the laws that we create in this country. And so when you talk about some of these relational shifts, and I think it's because there's a growing disparity of belief, there's a dehumanization of people on the other side that talks about how you're a monster for believing this instead of just being someone who disagrees with me. You are evil. And people feel genuinely unsafe physically, emotionally, to say the things, to be the things that they believe they are.
Right.
In society at this point. And there's a lot of genuine fear. There's a lot of economic distress. There's a lot of inequality. There's perceived injustices. And real ones, right? But we don't know what the difference is, and we're not here to discuss that. But if you feel that way, of course, you're not going to want to talk to someone who's dehumanized you.
Right.
Do you think because I don't feel educated enough to have an opinion about what I'm about to ask you, but I feel like because you have been in politics for longer and have life experience in that world more than Becky and I do. When you say that someone who does not think like the other person is almost like you're a monster for thinking that, or you're dehumanized for thinking something else, not just, oh, your opinion is different than mine. Is that something you think has been going on for a very long time? Or do you think that has become more prominent in more recent years?
Well, the answer is both, because I think in smaller circles it's been going on forever.
Okay.
But I think that the circle has widened at this moment in time. I think there's a lot more people who are starting to believe that what used to happen is politics is kind of layered on two different things, right? There's the foundational belief. I believe that, say, for instance, that the community should educate our children. And most people from all sides of any political spectrum would say, yeah, sounds great. We believe in that. That's our foundational connection. It's how you do it. Do you believe in charter schools, homeschooling? Do you want to do specialized high schools or elementary schools? Do you believe in Head Start? Do you want to put money directly into people's hands? How does it get funneled? All of that extra stuff, that's kind of politics. That's old school politics.
Yeah.
You can disagree on those things because they're not fundamental to my value system. I think that a lot more people are feeling like their value system has been touched. Like the idea that we should collectively take care of one another, that we owe something to our community, that we are connected to each other's successes and failures. That idea, I think, has eroded over time and has led us to this spot today.
Wow.
That's such a good point, a profound message. It was actually one of my questions for you that I think you answered in, is politics at play, or is it something relationally deeper and seemingly more than differing political views? It is, as you're talking about, kind of a recognition of character. When we're saying, what do I believe this, that we are moving beyond how we put a belief into action. We are feeling an affront by we're saying you are what you believe, and treating people or responding to people based on that's a deep relational component of you as a human being,
Right.
You in your character. What are you thinking about that, Tara?
Yes, I think it's, and to your point, I think it's so deep in that it is not, I disagree with your politics. It's, I disagree. I don't like who you are as a human. And I think that is just so profound. But I think that's the message that people are saying to each other. And it's that loss of, like Stefanie said, that it is, we have strayed so much from doing things out of, I want to do this for my community, and the sense of out of obligation to help others. And I think it's so much gone into this realm of, what do I get out of this?
That's a good point.
Not, what can I do to help others? And I think we've lost sight of that. And I think it is, I also think the mentality has strayed from us to a me mentality, right? Of, and the me is getting loud, right? So, and that's where we're struggling, as why you can see all of these statistics that, my goodness, the relationships and the fractures and the end of relationships. This doesn't, like Stefanie, you had said, I can't remember what word you used, but essentially you said, I'm not surprised by this. You know, I'm not surprised by this data either.
No, we see it live and played out and reflected on all of the time.
The
Go ahead.
historical perspective on this is actually important as well, because anytime we've had a period of economic strife, or, for instance, in the first pandemic in 1918, or when we've had other kind of economic crashes and other civil unrest, people get to a defensive position, right? When you feel threatened in any way, economically, bodily, and you have to remember, we're seeing each other less and less in person. We're seeing more of a two-dimensional version of each other online. We're seeing more of a caricature instead of our character. When we see people through a television screen, or we see them maybe a short amount of time in an office post, or something that we just don't actually get a lot of chance to just sit with each other. I mean, Robert Putnam wrote a book, Bowling Alone, 20 years ago or something like that, that talked about we are not getting that connection, that human connection.
No, we're not.
That allows us to be with people who may just bring up casual differences that come from their own personal history.
Right.
And if we don't hear stories, we don't actually hear people's lives in a settled way, not in a what are we doing in this meeting structure kind of way, but in a I've spent 3 hours with you and we have nothing left to talk about. What was your high school like?
Right.
kind
Well,
of
it's the loss of
conversation.
the collective.
Right.
We've lost the collective.
And perhaps been tasked with you align. And you align at all costs. And a little bit of framework of you're either with me or against me.
Yes.
and
it's only one or the other.
It's one or the other. And I talk in the clinical sphere often about or thinking versus and thinking, that if we give ourselves two choices, you either are with me or against me, that we have like very little option then. And is there more than one way to look at that at a circumstance than an or way? So that brings me to, if people have, because we're talking about values here, if people have real value differences, Stefanie, can they navigate it?
Yes.
I mean, because I would guess that there's people who are sitting, listening to this today, saying, I don't know that I can. Believe me, everybody who's listening and saying that, I'm also thinking that myself.
I was going to say, you're not alone.
There's part of me that's like, I don't know that I want to. I don't really like you.
And that's your choice.
And you, yes, you would say, we have to come back and sit with what honors us. But I would love for you to talk about when you have these real value differences, because we're talking now not about like action steps. We're talking about what we believe and what someone else might believe and how that might feel incongruent with us to even stay in a relationship with a person who believes something fundamentally different than us. But what would you say? How do we navigate this?
It's complicated, obviously. And I think you have to understand, first of all, what the role of that person in your life is. Okay. Is this a coworker? Is this a
good point?
20-year-old relationship, friendship? Is this your partner? Are these your kids? Are these your parents? Is it someone you care about in some other way? Is it someone you feel responsible for? Is it
or is it just someone you met on a dating app and you're on the first date?
Right.
That would be very different than if it's a family member.
Right. And I think that you have to start to say that, right? Like, okay, how do I want to get along with my coworker? Can I navigate what I need to do with them every day without bringing this up? Is that possible? Yes. If it's not, that needs to be rethought. How do you? And then it's a matter of how many degrees of separation do you want to have with this person? Can you? It's not a complete cutoff versus a 100% we're in conversation as well. So, maybe we'll go to Thanksgiving, but we don't go to Christmas. Maybe we see each other once a week, but not more than that. Maybe we don't do overnights. Maybe there's whatever. Maybe you can discuss how that goes. And then when you talk about the actual conversation about what you disagree on, is this a thing that fundamentally affects me? Like, are you saying that me as, for instance, a gay person shouldn't be allowed to live? Or are you saying that I shouldn't be able to work in these certain places? Are you saying that I shouldn't be able to get medical care? That's ultimately a threat to my safety and my dignity, and I don't think I want to hang out with a person like that. But if it's about other people's lives and you disagree with it and you can figure out how to continue that conversation in a way that illuminates your perspective differently to them, then maybe it's worth trying.
That's a great point.
Also, do you have the capacity to have some of these conversations? Are you stressed out in other ways? Do you have the energy to spend time engaging in these things? Or are you sick? Are you unable?
Kind of like question of where am I right now?
Yeah.
We've talked about
What's
that on
my
the
capacity?
show. Yes. What is this something I want to put energy into based on how much energy I even have? So we have to kind of take this note of self.
Right. And so there's a decision tree to even get to the point of the conversation. And then if you're at a point where you're saying, you know what, this person's important to me, I do want to continue having this conversation, understand that it might be several conversations. It might not be resolved ever. You might just have to continue having that discussion in a different way and let them come to it on their own. Be creative about how you ask them questions. Ask more questions than give statements.
I think what you just said is so important about that it may very well take more than one conversation, but I believe it should because this is something that's so important. This comes down to your values. That should take more than one conversation. So don't feel defeated if you're like, well, wait, we had one good conversation and I still feel like there's something more to be said. Well, there probably should be.
Right. And their core values.
Correct.
You know, we're talking, if we're meeting someone on a value-laden basis here, and I love what you're saying, Stefanie, and I get this imagery of concentric circles. I was just having a conversation with someone about this a few days ago, that if you drew 3 circles, and one circle, and then a circle around that, and a circle around that, and you put your people who are your people in that inner circle, and then you put the people who you know, well, that they're your good friends, they're close family members, they're the people who you would say they're the next closest to me, and then keep doing that in concentric rings, that you can then say, well, where is this person in the concentric circles? Are they fifth out?
Right.
Do I then, in terms of, does this matter to me? Is this a relationship that is one that I want to devote the energy that would require to have a value-laden conversation, as you're talking about, Tara? If I'm meeting someone on this core foundational space, do I want to do that for my concentric circle 5? Maybe I'm going to reserve that for people who are my inner tier, who I say, I don't feel like you're showing up in relationship to me. Here's what I might need. My sense of personhood is impacted here. We want to reserve that energy for those people. Is this a relationship that you say doesn't even really honor me? Right. And so I might want to let it go, because I think then that does make space for what you're talking about, Tara, that it probably does take more than one conversation. How can we resolve or even have heard each other when we're talking about things that are so core to who we believe ourselves to be?
Right. That in itself deserves more space than just one conversation.
I also think that we have to remember that we are complex individuals who have many values, and sometimes our values are expressed in different ways.
Well said.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe your grandma doesn't quite understand why you're choosing the profession that you're choosing. Maybe they don't like that you voted the way you did. But you know your grandma is going to be there for you in all sorts of other ways. You know that your grandma's honest. You know that she's loyal, that you trust her with caring for your dog or your kids or your, house sitting. I mean, there's a lot of other ways in which we connect to other people that don't have to be about that one thing that we disagree with, however deeply and however personally, that we feel complex feelings about people. And that we're allowed to feel those, and we just have to navigate what those are and how much of each of those are enough to keep them in whatever concentric circle we're looking at.
Yeah. Well,
girl,
I wish we all did this more.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to practice that myself because navigating giant values, we do this actually on a daily basis with ourselves. And when you talk about we are complex beings, yes, we have our own value conflicts internally.
Absolutely.
On a daily basis. We can value one thing and another thing. I was just talking about this with a good friend of mine, that we can value authenticity and we can value professionalism. And in a moment where we're sitting with a coworker who's being a jerk, which one do we value?
Exactly.
Professionalism or authenticity? And
the answer is both. It's which to employ in that moment, which is the priority.
Right. And how do those, what would feel like conflicting or intersecting values, get navigated there? We're talking about applying that in a relational context, which is super hard.
Yes.
Because as you started even this whole segment with, we show up with big feels about our values.
Yes.
And you have me thinking about even times where I have to hold myself accountable to, I show up activated.
Yes.
When someone asks a question, I'm ready to spar.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I am not showing up with curiosity.
Right.
Even about myself, I'm like, no, I'm firm and I'm right.
Right. Yes. And you also have to remember that you are, I had a thought. I'm like, this is a good one. But I'll get to it. I think what it comes down to is sometimes when you're in the moment, you have to decide whether it's the moment to do it too. Because the setting, the time is really important. And the most important priority might be based on many factors that you can't predict until you get there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I really like your decision tree on, if we were to say to listeners, what strategies could we try in navigating differences? What you're sort of asking people to ask themselves some questions prior to a discussion, and really thinking through, what does this relationship mean to me? Maybe hold ourselves accountable, as I was just saying, to how have we been already showing up to interactions. It's okay to end something. It is okay to do that, but to have thought through what's the impact of that. We talk all the time, Tara, on the show about pausing, giving ourselves some opportunity to have a little space to think through, pros and cons here. What honors me? Have I stated what I needed before?
Right.
Am I ending something before I've made a request, particularly to someone who is super important to me? All sorts of things. What would you say?
I think such an important factor of this, and I know you had mentioned it maybe a little bit later, but I think too it's important to recognize where developmental level comes in too, where I think the three of us are in a similar, age group, in that this is very different for the three of us we're so similar, right? We're looking at this from a mature standpoint of, I'm able to check myself and be mature about this and call myself out and go, I'm going to pause. I know my values I hold strong, but I'm also willing to reflect on them and see where you're coming from. Where someone in their 20s, in my 20s, I would have, you had said, Becky, it would have been let's go. And it doesn't matter. You could have brought up the most brilliant point, and I may think that was brilliant, but I am not going to tell you that was brilliant. I'm still going to say you're wrong.
Right.
Yep. Ego gets in the way.
Yeah. So it depends on your developmental level and what you're bringing to the table. But it's just so important, if you have the capacity to just pause first and just bring a willingness to, at bottom line, just to listen, pause and listen, because, but with age comes, that willingness to.
Some perspective.
Yeah.
That's a great point, and I really like that you brought it up, because that was kind of what I was going to get to when I forgot, which was some people feel that they have to know more about the politics itself in order to actually have a discussion about it, and they feel very inadequate and insecure about having that. And some other people who they're arguing with may come loaded with knowledge, with data, stats that they can't combat. And what we have to remember is that none of that matters as much as how we are treating each other in that moment. And you still have a right in that moment to say, I might not know, what the specifics are, but what I know is whenever I talk about this is how I feel.
Oh, well said. We're headed to a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk through listener questions. Feels Out Loud will process your questions and thoughts in just a moment.
Trying to find what you lost. You can't go it alone. Express yourself.
We are back again with Feels Out Loud, and this part of the show is where we talk through questions from you all, our listeners. If you have a question related to mental wellness, sharing feelings, or topics for each week that you would like us to process through, please visit our website at becomingtogethermn.com and find the Feels Out Loud page to submit a question directly, or email us at contact@becomingtogethermn.com. Of course, follow us on social media as well. We really do want to hear from you and what you are wondering about.
And listeners, you've had some big questions and feels about our polarized political spectrum. Thank you for emailing us your thoughts about relational conflict and endings that have happened as a result of political differences. We had a lot of people interested in. One of our listeners says, I need to set some boundaries with my family about politics. We completely disagree, but I am not wanting to end contact at this point. What would you suggest I try?
It's a great question.
Stefanie, what would you say?
I think that it depends on what kind of things you're having to talk about, but certainly I would just start by saying, hey, these are the things that I really want to talk about when I'm with you. Be more positive instead of negative. Like, you can't not talk about this, but how about let's talk about these things? Or if you can shift, if you have the social adeptness to get into another topic and try to change it before it gets too heated, that would be very helpful. But it depends on the relationship, too. Can you say to your mom, like, hey, I don't like it when you say this. Can we just not do that in this moment? Or please don't say that to my boyfriend. Or this person feels this way. I also think that the thing that's really important in a lot of these conversations is you have to explain, well, you don't have to, but to be more persuasive, you would be, you should tell the story of why you came to that position. Right?
Such a good part of that.
That's a really good point.
Personalize it. I've seen this happen. This is someone I know who XYZ this happened to. And that's why I feel so strongly about that, because I can't stop remembering the look on their face when that happened.
You're giving them the why.
Or sharing with them your true and real perspective, how you see it, how you perceive it. And I love that you say in relationships it can always be helpful about telling people what we'd like to see versus telling people what we don't want to see. That means that people then know how to show up versus us telling them how not to show up. And so I love that you highlight that. And perhaps in terms of boundary setting, note what you would like to see from the family members rather than what's off limits. And I want to highlight just the second listener who says, I just ended a long-term friendship as a result of our deep value differences, and I'm grieving. Hear this. I've done it too.
Yeah.
Done it too. And the listener says it was the right thing to do, but I'm so sad about it. Thoughts from you two on this?
It's like we talked about earlier in the show, that my first reaction is just allow the grief. Like, it is the same as a loss of life, in that allow the grieving process to work its way through. And as we talk about on the show and in the practice all the time, that it's that sit in those feelings and allow it to work itself out, and you will go through all the stages. At the same time, you also have to acknowledge that although, like this person says, it was the right thing to do, it is also okay knowing, hey, when you make a decision, if at any point you're like, wait, maybe I did not make the right decision, to go back and go, okay, this can be, something that we can fix or mend. But also trusting in yourself that the grieving process will work itself out. And in the end, it will be okay.
Yeah.
Right now, it's that whole piece of right now. Right now, I'm not okay.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right. And that the relationship, when you had it, was real and true.
Yes.
It shifted and changed. And so honoring the moments as they existed.
It just doesn't serve you now.
We're at the end of our show already for today.
Okay.
Thank you for listening, everybody, this morning. And join us next week as we process lifestyle medicine and its intersection with mental health. And in the week ahead, be kind to yourself, everyone. Remember that connection fosters wellness, and your voice is one that the world around you needs to hear. Share yourselves, friends.
Some do, some don't, some will, some won't. I wanna feel